Welcome back to Two Guys One Sport. I'm Luke. This is John. We're here to break down Week 4 here in the Big 12 and look ahead to Week 5, and we'll let you know how a pretty rough week of pick'ems went for me and John. We get started for Oklahoma. They're going to stay undefeated as they escaped an overtime game against Army. Army was able to control the ball for 44 minutes of that game and just really took away possessions from Oklahoma, kept the ball out of Kyler Murray's hand, and really almost came out of there with a win.
Yeah, big showing for the Black Knights. A game that I actually got my pick'em wrong in that game. I thought they had no chance in, but Army with a good showing. Moving on, West Virginia, they kind of come off their de facto bye week with the canceled game against NC State with a very impressive 35-6 win over the Kansas State Wildcats. And I was very impressed with Will Grier. David Sills had 3 touchdown catches, and from start to finish, they just dominated that game, and really, Kansas State didn't stand a chance.
Big surprise of the week, Texas Tech went into Stillwater and beat Oklahoma State 41-17. It seemed to be one of the big reasons why Texas Tech was able to control that game, especially in the second half. They had secondary player Jason Johnson make his first game of the year and just really helped out that defense and shut them down in the second half. Freshman quarterback Alan Bowman looked really solid, looking to maybe be the freshman Big 12 player of the year. And Texas Tech might get something rolling. They got a big game this week, but looking good.
And then we had the big matchup in Austin, Texas and TCU. Another one of our pick'ems that Luke here got wrong. Kind of a shocker. I mean, Texas, they looked good against USC. TCU looked pretty good against Ohio State, who we think is one of the best teams in the country. And so we kind of thought it was a big kind of testing game to see how that showed out. And Texas really impressed me. And TCU, they had a lot of good drives. They just couldn't finish drives. They were kicking field goals, and eventually the turnover bug bit them, and very disappointing performance from the Horned Frogs.
Baylor, they played against Kansas this week. They won 26-7. It really seemed like the quarterback Brewer, he really took control of that team and probably take that starting job over McClendon. See him moving forward. Like we looked at last week, Kansas just really struggled to throw the ball when they needed to. That rushing game was there. That defensive intensity was there, but that throwing game or that passing game really hasn't came together fully for the Jayhawks.
And then we move on. Iowa State, they picked up their first win of the year over a feisty Akron team who's had a couple impressive wins so far this year. But 26-13, my apologies. Iowa State, good for them. They picked up their first win. They really needed it. They're going to Fort Worth this week, so that was kind of a must-win for them, and they got their first win of the year.
Looking ahead to Week 5, we're going to start off with Oklahoma is playing Baylor. It's going to be a big game for Oklahoma as far as they're actually going to get to reboot and repace that offense after a real slow week last week. I just don't think Baylor can keep up with Oklahoma and this high-powered offense. Baylor might be able to put up some points against that D, but I think it'll be a big game for the Sooners.
Yeah, moving on, we got probably the matchup of the week. We got West Virginia heading to Lubbock to take on the newly ranked Red Raiders. And that's just going to be a big game. It's at 11 a.m., kind of a bummer kickoff start. That we'll see who adjusts to the early start better. But I look for Will Grier and David Sills to come out firing. Alan Bowman should be over there throwing it around the yard. I look for it to be a shootout.
We're going to look at Texas playing at Kansas State. Texas has lost 5 straight meetings at Kansas State. But Texas is coming off that big win against the Horned Frogs. We'll see is Texas really going to keep taking steps forward and maybe be a big player in this Big 12 race. Kansas State, they've had their early season struggles. They looked decent at times last week, but it's going to be interesting to see if that Texas team can go into Kansas State and do what many teams before them couldn't do and come out with a win.
Yeah, I'm very interested. This is always the big test for Texas. The whole thing is they can never win at K-State, and we've been saying they're back for how many years? Now's our chance to prove it. Moving on, we have we already did Baylor. We have Oklahoma State, and they're taking on the Kansas Jayhawks. And Kansas, impressive showing last week. The defense looked good, held Baylor under 25 points, but that offense kind of looked same old like it used to. I mean, they had a good showing against Rutgers and Central Michigan a couple weeks ago. But and same with Oklahoma State. They came out firing, looked good against Boise State, and then just kind of laid an egg in the second half last week against Texas Tech. So that's a kind of a proven game for both of those teams, and we'll see who can get it done.
Lastly, we have TCU and Iowa State. We're still looking for, if we asked the question last week, can TCU bounce back? We're going to ask it again this week. Can TCU bounce back? They cannot look past this Iowa State Cyclone team. We're still trying to figure out who exactly Iowa State is. I mean, you come out of the gates, you lose to Iowa, you lose to Oklahoma, two very solid schools. You squeak past Akron, also a solid football program. Where is Iowa State going to fit into this Big 12 picture?
Yeah, honestly, I think they probably had the toughest schedule to start the year for any team. I mean, to get your first game canceled against an FCS school, and then to have to go to Iowa to play, and then follow it up with a top 10 team, and then followed up by another good group of 5 school. So that's a tough 4 games to start. And going into our pick'ems, we had our first down week of the year. We were looking good. We're still above 500. If you bet with us, you're gonna make some money. But let's get it started with the pick'ems this week, Luke.
I'm going to start it off with West Virginia at Texas Tech, and I'm taking West Virginia. They're the 3.5-point favorite. I just think Texas Tech's going to be coming off that high against Oklahoma State. That's going to be a tough game for them to win. I think West Virginia's improved defense and their high-powered offense is going to be too much for the boys in Lubbock, and they win that game probably at least by 2 scores.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I mean, really bad luck of the draw with the 11 a.m. kick. I think with the night game, I'd probably like Tech in that one. And my first pick is going to be the Ohio State Buckeyes going into Death Valley, or is it Happy Valley? Happy Valley, whatever. It's going to be a whiteout. It's going to be crazy. Penn State, Ohio State is giving up 3.5 points going in, but I think they're going to win just because I'm very impressed with what I saw from Ohio State against TCU and the games that I've watched this year. Haskins looks like probably the best quarterback in the country in my eyes, and I think they go in there and take care of Penn State.
Well, my next pick, I'm going to go with one of the top non-Power 5 schools in the country with UCF. They're 13.5-point favorites hosting Pitt. I just think that offense, I've been watching a little bit of Central Florida, and their offense has just been stellar. They play a very turnover-driven defense, and I think playing at home against a team like Pitt, it's going to be tough to go into that heat down there for them. I think they win that game by 21, maybe 28 points.
Yeah, we'll see if Pitt's able to slow the game down. That's what they're going to try to do with that run game, but I don't know if they're going to be successful or not. And my second pick is probably one of the bigger games of the week. Stanford going into Notre Dame to take on the Irish. Notre Dame is favored by 5.5 points. I've picked them a couple times, but I'm not that impressed with the Irish yet to see them beating Stanford by 6 points. So I'm going to take the points here. Notre Dame could very well win the game, but I don't think it'll be by more than 6 points.
Notre Dame has really struggled against less quality opponents than Stanford, and so that's going to be a real tough game to win by 6 points.
Yeah, got to pay attention, though. Stanford coming off that big win in Eugene. I don't see how they bounce back, see if they get up for this one.
I'm going to go with lastly, I'm going to go back to the Big 12. OU is 23.5-point favorites against Baylor. I just think that offense is going to be way too much. They're probably a little upset that they couldn't get as many points on the board against Army last week, and they're going to really show out against the Baylor Bears. And I think we're going to see what that Oklahoma defense can do a little bit more against Baylor. They're going to try to throw the ball around, and we're going to see that team speed really catch up.
Yeah, big change of pace for the Oklahoma defense from defending that triple option to now going back to the traditional air raid attack. So we'll see how they can handle that. And lastly, my last pick is Oregon going on the road at Cal. They're getting 2.5 points. I'm going to take the points there. Hopefully Oregon can bounce back from a tough loss last week. But I think Oregon probably has superior athletes to Cal. And stay up late to watch that one. Hopefully Oregon pulls it out.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. It'll be the last game of the day. Well, if you want to see our video from last week, you can go down and click the link in the description. Next Wednesday, we will give you our Week 5 results and look ahead to Week 6 in the Big 12. Hopefully we can see some really good games and see some good matchups and watch some good football. Till next week, this is Two Guys, One Sport. Thanks for watching.